Okay, so comedian Bob Farrell, Lazman, Matt Karcher, and Joe Spano all got the last week's theme song. It was Bad Street by the Fabulous Freebirds. No, it was Michael Hayes and what was the name of the band?
I think he wrote that with Nikki Six. I
No.
think right because Michael. I'm not going to say Bad Street's a great song, but I think Michael definitely was doing something clever lyrically.
I want to say shout out to Joe Spano. He was the one that asked us about Bruno and Chief J Strongbow. I thought he was going to be combative. He was actually really cool with. So, anyways,
Because what I remember when Michael did Bad Street, he had Nikki Six on bass. I think he had Tommy Lee on drums, and I think that was Richie Sambora playing guitar.
um,
I think.
so yeah, welcome to the Gary Hart fan club family.
Mm-hmm.
And if you got any questions, please send them to us. For we are running out of things to talk about.
We're not
No,
running out of
we need
things to
things to
talk.
talk
Yeah,
about.
we do need things to talk.
And if you want to talk about, it doesn't have to be dad. If you want to talk about AWA, NWA, the Montreal screw job, the NWO.
That is the Montreal screw job. First of all, that was a work,
So
and the NWO and Steve Austin. They're still. We can talk about something. They haven't been able to follow that, and that was 30 years ago. But
who
Montreal people don't buy it. It's a work.
who
Vince is going to
thinks
sell a punch from one of his boys, and he falls off a motorcycle and has his back fused and gets endowed by the federal government, and he doesn't cop to it? Come on, kayfabe is still somewhat alive until somebody spills the beans about that.
who thinks the Montreal screw job was a work? Let us know. Anyways,
Scott Hall said it was a work. It was a work.
let's get right to the questions. Okay.
We're
Kate.
going to talk a little bit about.
Oh, yes. Crap. Yes, absolutely. Dory Funk Jr.
Yeah, in case anyone hasn't heard, Dory Funk Jr. passed away this past week. Was the Funks were really important to Dad's career. Dad first got here in Texas in 1966. Came from Detroit, working for the Sheik, and Dad was
Not the Iron Sheik.
yeah, the original Sheik, and Dad was wasn't working as a manager. This is the only Amarillo was the only place Dad didn't work as a manager because the old man Dory Funk Sr. just didn't believe in using managers, and he put Dad with Dory and Terry because they were the only ones closest in age to Dad. And Dad was in a program with both Dory and Terry, and he was working with Dory in a match. And the finish was said, what's going to happen is both of them are going to be down, and Terry is going to jump in, and he's going to save Dory from Dad. And Dad hadn't met Terry yet, but that was the finish. And Terry hadn't got to the building yet when the match goes on to the ring. And then as soon as the match starts, they're in the middle of the heat, and they're both, I think, a double knockdown or something. And then there's this roar from the crowd. And Dad goes, oh, what's this? Terry goes to jump over the top rope and catches the tip of his boot on the top rope and falls over. And there's a huge pop. And Dory just rolls over and looks at Dad. He goes, oh, by the way, that's my brother Terry. But Dory was technically brilliant. And I think he had the strap helmet. Did he have it twice or three times?
Man. Yeah, he a bunch.
And as far as the story,
I don't know, to be honest with you.
the story out there that the car wreck was a work, so he wouldn't have to drop the belt to Jack Briscoe because it would have ruined his credibility. I don't know if all that's true, but I remember Dory vividly because the first time we ever met him, he was the booker in North Carolina. He was the head booker because I think it was Dad, Wahoo, Ernie Ladd, and Dory. And Dory was the head booker at the time and had that house in Charlotte where they had those little apples that were growing on the tree and had that one tree house. Great tree house. That's where we first met Dory and Marty.
Yeah, so quick story about Marty, Dory Funk's wife. So this was, I guess, 1984. And Dad and Dory were they were somewhere in the Carolinas wrestling.
Yeah, back when guys used to actually hang together because we'd always be over at their house or at Greg Valentine's.
And so it was me, you, Mom, and Marty.
Mm-hmm.
And if I remember right, I can't remember.
It was at McDonald's, wasn't it? Was it at McDonald's?
No, we were in the living room. We were at their house. And I was about to say, I can't remember if it was their house or Adrian Street's house.
Because he was over there.
Had such a big kitchen. But anyways, I was...
That was a huge kitchen.
So anyways, I'd accidentally ran into Marty or something. I'm like 4 years old. And Marty was like, get me back. And she was like, here, hit my hand, get me back. and I remember I hit her hand, and I think Mom came in at the wrong time, and like I got in trouble for it. And Mom was like, "Go lay down or go to sleep. Go in the." And Marty was like, "No, I told him to." But anyways,
and Mom and Marty had that bond because they're both from Fort Worth.
yeah. And so anyways, I went, fell asleep, I think in Dory and Marty's bed.
Yeah.
And then I just remember waking up, and so it was like I fell asleep, I knocked out, um, and I woke. I'm like 4 years old, and I just remember waking up, and Dad had me like carrying me out to the car, and he was talking to Dory. But that's really, yeah, I was so little, like I don't remember a whole lot
My
about.
main memory of Dory's work is he was working under. He did something where he had to leave, and he came back under a mask as the Texas Outlaw, and Dad was managing him, and he was working against. I think it was Angelo Mosca Jr. and it was at. I think it was in Conway, South Carolina, and Dory. I mean, had this way of starting a match, headlock, front face, like he felt to build heat. He just keeps the guy down in a hold. So in hammerlock, front face lock, headlock. I don't remember the exact the sequence of events. And then Dad told me, he goes, because me and you were sitting there, I think the third or fourth row. Dad goes, he was putting on that clinic for you guys.
Yeah.
And one day I was in a dressing room with Jake Roberts, and Jake was sitting over there in the corner talking about how Dory led a match. And he was like, and Dory goes through his complete repertoire. And I'm looking at Jake, and me and Jake are looking like this, like, yeah, I know exactly where you're coming from because I've seen the exact same thing multiple times. No, but Dory was, I think he was 85, great guy, credible, more than credible champion, very good booker. It was the type of booker that would be like, well, what do you want to do? He wasn't so like a lot of guys got controlling, but Dory was pretty lenient when it came to booking. He would just say, what would you like to do this evening? But a good guy.
Yeah. KPLLC 42.
And hello, Miss Marty, if you happen to be watching.
He says, I just watched a video about WCW's Glacier.
Mm-hmm.
The video said that the spot on the manager of Mortis and Wrath was offered to Gary Hart and Oliver Humperdinck before going to James Vanderberg. I'd never heard that story and was wondering if there was any truth to it.
No. They might have offered Hump that gig because Hump was really close with Diamond Dallas Page at the time. And Hump hadn't been on the outs with them near as long as Dad had been.
Right.
And I don't know if they offered it to Hump, but I can tell you they definitely didn't offer it to Dad because Dad was pretty much out of the business at that time. And
what was that? That was 96?
That was 96. And they ran the promos for that thing for months.
Yeah, so in 95, 94, 95, 96, we were around Dad every single day and knew, like and so we would have definitely heard about that. We would have heard
because Dad had no contact with that office after it was September '93 because he kept was supposed to go back in he multiple times from '91 forward. Dad had thought about going back and had talked to them about going back. They both initiated the conversation. They initiated it the first time in '91, and then they went back and forth. And then he got offered a few things here and there. And then '93, he was offered to go back. He was going to go back in, and then he kiboshed it. Then he was going to go back in, and he talked to, I think it was, I don't remember who it was in '93 September, and he just never had any contact with those guys again. But in all honesty, what's odd is Ray Lloyd, who actually ended up being Glacier, was just working as an underneath guy when Kenji really started to get over, and Dad handpicked him after one match with Ray to go around and do the spot shows with him, work on TV with him because Ray could do all the stuff, and he did exactly what Dad told him.
Yeah, you were saying James Vanderberg too. You were saying that Dad. So, anyways, in 96, 95, 96, Dad would have just been kicking it around the house, cooking. He liked to cook, just chilling.
Still watch wrestling.
Exactly. So we still watch wrestling. And we remember seeing that when James Vanderberg.
Because he was out there talking, and Dad had said, Dad said, he's doing me and Paul Ellering. I was like, you think he's been influenced by you? Dad goes, I can tell when guys are doing my act. But he was very, very good at it. At least it was done by somebody who knew what to do. And he's always said really nice things about the old man. I thought he was a very, very good manager.
All right, KPLLC.
Very good manager.
Thanks for the question. Keep them coming. as we are running out of things to talk about. Rick Knight.
So thank you, Mr. Vandenberg, if you're watching.
James
Mitchell, I believe, is his real name.
Did your dad ever talk about a wrestler named Jim Wilson? I read his book and it came off as he was his own biggest fan and was everyone else's fault he never made it in wrestling.
That's typical of every underneath guy that never made a dime. Dressing rooms have been full of
I'll just say one thing about this dude, Jim Wilson. I remember, I think it was the Phil Donahue show.
No, it was Martin Downey
I know.
Jr.
Well, there was a couple of them he was on. I think maybe it was just Martin, but I think everything the guy said was true.
Well, except for the fact that he didn't get over because he was being held down. But as far as like the advancement stuff, probably that all happened.
And I think it was really crappy how, it probably wasn't the smartest thing
Why
to do.
You don't go exposing the business at a time in which kayfabe was still the law. Come on.
I'm just saying, like, I was going to say, probably, he kind of like, it wasn't the smartest thing to do to go expose the business or try to expose the business.
You wonder why he never worked. Him with Eddie Mansfield.
In 1989 or 90, whenever that was. But I think
nothing against Eddie Mansfield. He was a very good worker, crazy, but very, very good.
Yeah, I think everybody treated him like crap, and he was being honest. Probably
Eddie Mansfield is watching. Hello, sir.
Probably wasn't the smartest thing to do to go out there with David Schultz and say wrestling's fake. So. But anyways, yes, I don't know. Dad never really talked about him. I think we watched the Martin Downey Jr. episode. I think he was on some other talk show too.
He might have
I think
been.
It was Phil Donahue, maybe. I don't know. So yeah, I think it was wrong how everybody treated him. Well, I'm just saying.
Well, at the time that he did that,
Yeah.
Rick
Knight, thanks for the question.
That's just something that you didn't do, and that's the reason.
Right? Why, yeah. It was.
I mean, it's one thing to say to expose the business, and it's another thing to say that
what
get over because other people were holding you down. I don't see how.
If he would have waited 7 years, everybody was exposing it anyways.
When you're saying that because you turned down a sexual advancement, you didn't get booked. How does the people don't know? How does that help? That's like saying, oh, well, if you're sucking up to the promoter, that's how you get to the main event. Well, do the people know you're doing that? No, like Larry Zbyszko said, the great Larry Zbyszko once said, he said, backstage politics, that begins and ends with whether or not you can draw money. Because if you can't, it doesn't matter. And like Shawn Michaels said, if you can go out there and you get over, there's nothing they can do to you. So stop with the violins. But Eddie Mansfield was a little bit different because he was trying to actually help is what he was trying to do. Now, they did put the screws to him.
Eddie Mansfield?
Yeah.
Is that the guy that cut his head with the razor blade? And he was trying to help?
He was trying to... it's a long story, but his heart was in the right place.
All right.
It was.
Rick, good question. Keep them coming. As we're running out of things to talk about.
That's what we've been talking. I mean, we're not running. I mean, maybe we're out of things to talk about. We're talking about Jim Wilson.
I was going to say too, like, yeah. Anyways,
because I mean, it's this whole thing. Well, like they are now. Well, we just want nice people. Well, nice people. Well, wrestlers, in the words of Billy Gunn, sometimes are horrible people.
Wes Childress, 1895. He says, Kerry worked heel in Florida along with David and in Memphis during the USWA Texas versus Tennessee War. Let me read that again. Kerry worked heel in Florida along with David and in Memphis during the USWA Texas versus Tennessee War.
Yes, he worked as a heel in Florida back in the 80s, early 80s, but he wasn't that good at it.
Kerry?
Yeah. Okay.
There's more.
He's, you couldn't dislike him.
Unfortunately, working heel did not come naturally to Kerry.
That's
agreed.
True.
Unlike David, who embraced being a heel,
yes,
Kerry struggled to come across as a heel in interviews and still wrestled like a babyface in the ring.
Mm-hmm.
I was thinking, like, Mom, anytime you ask her about Kerry, she just talks about how funny he was. Mm-hmm. He was always trying to make people laugh and stuff like that. And just, I have no memory of meeting Kerry.
That'd be like booing He-Man. The little kid is not going to boo He-Man.
He just,
it's not going to happen.
I mean, Kerry was, man,
he was
perfect. If you can make, he was all. I mean, that's
like you see this new He-Man movie. If you would have cast Kerry Von Erich or Lex Luger or the Ultimate Warrior, that's what he's supposed to look like. I think when I got my first He-Man action figure in '82, I subconsciously thought it was a Kerry Von Erich action figure.
Yeah. No, I'm just saying, like, but as a heel, like,
Kerry could not have worked heel. I mean, he could. I mean, yeah, you could have booked him as one, but it wasn't going to get over as one.
I never knew that he worked heel.
Yeah.
I knew David did in
Oh yeah,
Florida.
David was good at it. Kevin would have been effective out somewhere else out of Texas as a heel.
Yeah,
For sure.
yeah.
For sure.
I always thought, like, what would happen if Kevin Von Erich, and one day Dad was messing with me. You probably remember that. Like, yeah, I think like WWF, 93, 94, where it was pretty dried up. If Kevin Von Erich, would have went there as a heel, like, went hit the gym hard for like a year, then would have went there as a heel.
Maybe only have to hit it for about 6 weeks.
I think that may have been something.
He might have.
I don't know. I remember Dad was messing with me one day.
You're still having didn't want to travel 325 days a year.
Dad told me that. He goes, I don't remember what it was, but he's just messing with me. He goes, Kevin Von Erich's going in here, going to be a heel. I was like, what?
That was news to you and Kevin.
Yeah. So, what's Childress? I didn't know that.
No, I knew Kerry worked as a heel, but it's like that's not, that would be like, that'd be like turning Sting heel. It's not gonna, no.
Yeah.
Or John Cena heel. People they're just not gonna boo him.
I noticed the thing today. Quick side note: you mentioned Sting. There was something I guess the WWE Vault put up. It was like the missing. It was like Sting from Slamboree '95 backstage or something like that.
Mm-hmm. And
he was
in the dressing room.
Yeah, he was talking about one of the things that he tries to do is connect personally with the fans. And it's odd that he brought that up on that documentary, because I've noticed, and his son, that was one of the first things I noticed about his son. His son connects with the people in a way like that's not.
It's hard to do.
Yeah, I know, but it's like, I think Sting's son is very good.
That's what gets guys over, if the people connect with them, if they connect with the people.
Sure,
because now you have a bunch of guys that go out there and they raise their hand when they get on the second row. We applaud. Why? Because you walk to the ring?
Right.
Come on. But then again, they don't even acknowledge that the crowd is there. And judging by some of the seats at the last SummerSlam, like some of them weren't. But I kid.
Let's see. Ace from Space.
Fraley?
My first wrestling live show as a kid was in the early 80s, and I saw your father managing the Great Kabuki. I was in the front row, and they scared the blank out of me.
Okay.
Legendary duo. Yeah, dude.
Thank you.
Yeah, I told the story a million times, but yeah, like I remember sitting at the kitchen table, like I'm sitting here, I'm like 3 years old, and mom's here, dad's there, you're here, and there's the Great Kabuki in a brown dickie.
He didn't have his face painted, but he did have the chain.
And I was just scared to death of him, dude. I'm like sitting there, and it's really odd because you're scared to death, but everything's really calm. Your parents aren't like alert or anything, but yeah, like I knew who he was. Yeah, so yeah, I'm scared to death of him.
Yeah, I've had a lot of people tell me that. That's like Kabuki scared the hell out of me when I was a kid.
Yeah, we used to. He lived at the same apartments as us, I think, in 1985, and
when he came back in and they put him with Sunshine.
Yeah, and he used to have all he had in his apartment, from what I remember, it was like no furniture. He just had big rice bags.
Yeah,
like bags like that.
I remember it was hot in the apartment. I think the AC broke, and I think he thrust kicked the maintenance man.
No, but serious, yeah. Yeah, I was scared to death.
Jason's son. Hoi.
Yeah, and just I remember him at Texas Stadium, rinsing his mouth out and and then like blowing green water in the. So yeah, I was scared of him too.
He could do that thing with his hands too.
Yeah,
and he would make that popping sound.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So yeah. Thanks, Ace from Space.
Yeah, Fraley. That's obviously what that's a reference.
Got any more questions?
That's got to be a Kiss reference of some type.
Disagree with us on anything? Did I lisp? Let us know. Yeah. Wasn't that stupid when Kabuki became a babyface? That was so dumb.
Well, it's another one of Dad's gimmicks that was misused.
All right, Mark Kratis Matsko. We got a few here, so we might see. Might have to come back to them. Okay. Okay. Gary Hart Fan Club family. Yeah. Okay. So hey, so Mark So Lasman, Mark says that Gary Hart Fan Club family is a bit long, dude.
It is.
I'm just saying. Well, no, that's Lasman said that.
Well, I'm sorry. I agree with him.
I'm just saying.
Whatever he says, I agree with.
I'm just saying. Mark is saying it's a bit long. Just call it Gary Hart's Army. So we got a little program going here between Mark. I see. So we're gonna do some booking here. Yeah. So we got Mark and Lasman. So there's a little maybe create a little tension between you guys. And then in like 6 weeks, maybe book y'all. And then we can do a cage and we can do a hair match. I don't know. So, anyways, Gary Hart Fan Club family is a bit long. Gary Hart's Army. I like it, dude, but we're rolling with. Yeah, I don't know what to say. Okay. Also, yes. Blah blah blah. Okay. What are your thoughts on Jim Cornette admitting that his original managerial gimmick? I didn't know that's how you spelled managerial. I didn't know that was a word. Gimmick in Tennessee.
I didn't know gimmick was a word.
What are your thoughts on Jim Cornette admitting that his original gimmick in Tennessee that Jerry Jarrett gave him, which he carried over to WCW? I guess he's talking about World Class and maybe WCW. So, anyways,
gimmick did Jimmy use for the better part of his career?
Yeah. So, what are your thoughts on Jim Cornette admitting that his gimmick was given to him by Jerry Jarrett, which was based on Gary's Mother Hart gimmick?
I think
so. Can you tell him a little bit about the Gary Mother Hart gimmick?
Well, when Dad first started in the wrestling business, when he became a manager, the thing was my grandmother, who never watched wrestling and tried to forget that her son did it because she realized she may not have liked it, but she realized how dangerous the gig was because she had a picture of my dad in Esching with palm leaves surrounding him to try to protect him because she knew how dangerous the gig was. But Dad, in his early career, before he became, the guy that everyone thought was a street thug from Chicago, it was Mother Hart. My grandmother supposedly paid for all of his legal fees, backed him to the hilt financially, was one of the richest women in all of Chicago, and pretty much whatever my dad wanted, he pretty much got. So whenever Dad would get run afoul in a wrestling angle of being threatened with a fine or a suspension, Dad would say, "I'll just get my mother to pay the fine and her lawyers. You're not going to get me."
Okay, so that was where Jim Cornette.
Exactly, because he kept badgering, because Jim broke into wrestling. He would sell. His mother also worked was selling novelties. He was a photographer and a novelty salesman, and he was heavily involved in Memphis and was working in the office, I think, taking pictures and tried to get involved in the office. And he met Jerry Jarrett and says, "I want to go out there and do something. I want to go out there and do something." And then Jerry Jarrett said, "Well, I'm going to give you the old Playboy gimmick like Gary Hart used to have, the mama's boy Playboy, the rich mama's boy Playboy. And if you can irritate the people the way you irritate me, you'll make me a fortune." And so Jim went out there and he took it and he ran with it. But he also added a few things himself. He added the colorful jackets and the colorful pants and the tennis racket. So Jimmy took that and he ran with it. And became, in my estimation, one of the greatest wrestling managers in history.
Yeah, and he says it's surprising that Jerry Jarrett would use something from someone he had so much heat with.
Well, I mean,
yeah, that's true. But true. I guess Jerry Jarrett, I think one thing he understood money. Yeah, and he was like, okay, if this can maybe draw a little bit of money, I don't care who the heat's with. Well, if this can help, let's go beyond our personal feelings.
And what were three of Dad's credos when it came to booking?
Dad's credos. I have no idea, dude. I mean, you can name a million of them.
What was
false finishes?
No.
Oh.
I mean, yeah, but that's understood. If you can't go 15 minutes, I can't use you. Right?
Right.
Okay, that's one.
That's one.
2, just go out there and hustle for me. And 3, I don't have to love you to book you.
Right. Yeah, well, that's smart business.
Exactly. Yeah, remember that. I don't have to love you to book you. It'd be nice if I did, but if I don't, it doesn't matter. If you can draw, I will use you.
Yeah.
Jerry. And then him and Dusty had that rule: do not do, you do not know how to do.
Yes. Okay, so.
But no, Jimmy took that and ran with it.
Question number 2 to Jason.
Yes.
How did Court Bauer end up getting in touch with you and bringing you out to the MLW show where there was a tribute to your dad? Were there any reasons you chose Uh,
When I
yes.
chose
Okay.
that shirt and that haircut.
No. How did Court end up getting in touch with you and bring you out to the MLW show?
Well, I kind of stayed in touch with him after, I think from the time that Dad went and first worked for him in like '04. And I talked with him here and there. And he kept my number and I kept his. And that's pretty easy to do. So I'm like Dallas Page. If you lose touch with me, it's because it's your fault because I return phone calls.
Okay. So,
Was there more?
okay. So, what's your opinion of where Texas wrestling is at nowadays?
I'm not. I have no idea where it is. I'm
Yeah,
not. I'm not saying that to be like arrogant or cocky. Because I'm not involved in wrestling.
I would say a lot of the guys are probably cool guys. I don't think what has happened to wrestling. I mean, we can go on and on about this. It's nothing against the guys. I'm sure there's a lot of cool guys, but it's just
And you got guys training guys who have never. You have right now. What you have is a bunch of guys who are involved who were never in the real wrestling business. Because I mean, the real wrestling business crescendoed and ended in '01 when all that was now gone. So now it's several generations. Because think of it, if you're 25, unless you're around 30 years old, you have no memory of there ever being a WCW.
yeah, and I'll say it too this way. This is, I mean, like I said, you could talk about this for 10 hours, but uh, I think one of the main problems is when you talk about Texas wrestling, you're thinking about the '70s, the '60s, the '70s, the '80s, the down and dirty sportatorium, the Von Erichs and Spoiler and Fritz Von Erich and all that. The one of the problems is, and this is society is not so. Society was perfect at the time for Texas wrestling to become what it was. Um, So I don't know if that makes sense. So I think society has changed so much since 50 years ago that it could never be like that again. I don't know if that makes sense. That kind of makes sense.
In ways, but once you the
I'm saying
underlying
the
factor
average.
being when they know
I'm
it's
not
not
saying
real.
that. I'm not saying that. I'm saying, well, that's a part of it. The business has been exposed, and that era when Texas wrestling was so hot, the people believed. You can't get them to believe. I don't, unless it's a shoot. But
Yeah,
so
you couldn't get. Why would you go out? I mean, nowadays,
good
I know
question.
guys are doing it now. They'll go out there and they'll try to hard way each other and punch each other. It's like, what's the? I mean, I just, I mean, not being arrogant. It's just I'm not involved.
Um, so he does continue to say, I don't know if that makes sense, but I want to get this part in because I really like them. He talks about Rodney Mack and Jazz
Mm-hmm.
um, run wrestling around here. You know,
Good people.
though, that's the right people to have. They
They were involved when it was still a
and
business.
not just that, but that's good. And I'm sure Rodney Mack really cares about my opinion or
That's
Jazz,
good.
but um, yeah, yeah,
Hello,
nothing.
Ronnie and Miss Jasmine.
Yeah, it's just there's just so many things. I mean, I think it's an uphill battle to ever get anything going here. But for them running it, yeah, that's great.
Yeah, they would. Yeah, they would know.
And not just that, but they weren't marks. Like I
No,
remember meeting them. So many people around here are just marks, and but they were not like that. They were more like they could have been around
they would have been.
in any era of
They would have
wrestling.
been.
Um, and so yeah, that's great. So I just wanted to say that because I saw their name on here. So more here. Maybe we can get to that.
Is that the only
The
question for
next.
me?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, they're all for you.
And if anybody wants to why I didn't get involved, yeah, I'm 5'11", 135 pounds. Yeah,
Oh,
that'd be like putting Mick Jagger or Keith Richards out there, and it wouldn't be credible.
all right. Thanks for the questions. See you next time.